The handcuffs clicked shut around her wrists, the cold metal biting into skin already bruised from the scuffle. Officer Miller looked down at the woman they had just pinned to the ground, her breathing ragged, her eyes sharp with defiance. She didn't look like a Navy SEAL. She didn't look like someone who had ever served in the military at all. Her jeans were torn at the knees, her sweatshirt smeared with dirt, and her sneakers looked like they had been salvaged from a dumpster. And yet, when she had stepped in front of that group of rowdy men harassing the waitress outside the diner and barked an order with the confidence of a commander, everyone had stopped. For a moment, even the cops had believed her. "Ma'am, impersonating a Navy SEAL is a federal offense," Miller said, straightening as he secured the cuffs. His voice carried the stiff authority of someone trying to remind himself he was in control. "I'm not impersonating anyone," she spat back, her voice steady despite the weight of humiliation pressing down on her. "I don't have to. I earned it." The officers exchanged skeptical glances. The Navy SEALs were an elite brotherhood. Men who had endured Hell Week, impossible missions, unspeakable losses. And here was a woman, dirty, disheveled, with no uniform, no medals, no proof, claiming to be one of them. The sirens faded as they drove her to the station, the night swallowing the town's main street behind them. Word spread quickly in small places, and by the time they escorted her inside, whispers filled the room like static. "The crazy lady who thinks she's a SEAL. Another vet imposter. Pathetic." But she didn't flinch. Not when they searched her. Not when they took her fingerprints. Not when they snapped her photo under the fluorescent lights that made her look 10 years older than she was. She stood with the stillness of someone who had endured worse, someone who knew what true fear looked like and had made peace with it long ago. Hours passed before the door opened again. An older man stepped inside, his posture straight despite the limp in his left leg, the ribbons on his chest gleaming against his uniform. Admiral Thomas Green was a living legend, a man who had led missions no one was allowed to speak of, whose very presence commanded silence. He glanced at the officers, then at the woman sitting across from him in the interrogation room. "This the impersonator?" he asked, his tone dry. "Yes, sir," Officer Miller said. "She was disrupting public order. Claims she's a Navy SEAL. We figured you'd want to leave us," the Admiral interrupted. The door shut behind them, leaving only the hum of the overhead light and the steady rhythm of the woman's breathing. For the first time, her eyes softened, not in fear, but in recognition. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. The Admiral lowered himself into the chair opposite her, wincing as his knee protested. He studied her face, tracing the lines carved by years of exhaustion, grief, and survival. Then, with a sigh, he rolled up her sleeve. There, etched into her skin, was a tattoo. Not the kind you could buy at a corner parlor. Not the kind a fan might get to mimic their heroes. This one was earned, burned into memory and flesh alike by the fire of combat, by the silent bond of those who had walked through death together and returned with scars the world could never see. "That tattoo's authentic," the Admiral said, his voice carrying the weight of finality. The room shifted. The air itself seemed to pause. She closed her eyes, relief flooding through her in a way that was almost painful. "Tell me," Green said softly. "Why hide? Why now?" Her lips trembled, and for the first time that night, her armor cracked. "Because they wouldn't believe me," she whispered. "Because no one ever believes a woman could survive Bud-S. Because after Afghanistan, after that last mission, all I wanted was to disappear. And then tonight, I couldn't just walk away when I saw those men harassing her. I had to step in. Old habits die hard." The Admiral leaned back, his gaze steady. He knew the truth of her words because he had seen it before, the unbearable weight carried by those who came home but never truly returned. "I remember," he said after a long pause. "You were part of Operation Iron Tide. You carried Martinez out when the chopper went down." Her eyes widened. "You remember." "I remember all of them," Green replied. His voice softened, especially the ones who were erased from the record books. The truth was, she had been written out, her name buried, her service classified, her existence reduced to silence. The world wasn't ready to accept that she had done what no one believed possible. And so she had vanished, trading glory for anonymity, medals for a chance at an ordinary life that never came. But now, sitting in this sterile room, the past pressed against her chest until she could barely breathe. "I don't want recognition," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't want parades or medals or stories written about me. I want to help people. That's all I've ever wanted." The Admiral studied her for a long moment, then stood. His voice, when he spoke, was sharp enough to cut through the silence outside the door. "Release her," he ordered. The officers blinked in confusion as the Admiral walked her out of the station himself, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. Outside, dawn was breaking, painting the sky in strokes of gold and crimson. "You saved that waitress tonight," Green said. "Doesn't matter if they believe you or not. What matters is that you're still living by the code." Tears slipped down her cheeks, unbidden but unstoppable. She looked at him, at the man who carried the same ghosts she did, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel invisible. And as the sun rose over the quiet town, the woman once forgotten by history took her first step toward being seen, not as an imposter, not as a fraud, but as what she had always been, a warrior with a heart big enough to keep fighting, even when the world refused to see her scars.